The iPhone is one of the most famous mobile phone brands in the world. In every corner, there are bound to be people who own an iPhone. Not only that, but everyone knows a thing or two about the iPhone. Unfortunately, many people still misunderstand the iPhone. This is especially true for Android users, as many of them still believe various myths about the iPhone. To ensure that you, as an Android user, don't fall for these myths, check out the following tips.
When it comes to battery capacity, iPhones are always inferior to Android phones. For example, the iPhone 16 only has a battery capacity of 3,561 milliampere hour, and the iPhone 16 Pro Max only has a battery capacity of 4,685 milliampere hour. On the other hand, there is the Xiaomi 15 Ultra with a 6,000 milliampere hour battery and the Vivo V60 with a battery capacity of 6,500 milliampere hour. However, this does not mean that iPhone batteries always run out quickly.
On the contrary, it turns out that the battery life of the iPhone is quite high. Despite its small battery capacity, iOS on the iPhone is well optimized. The iPhone's temperature is always maintained, and the iOS system is also able to maximize battery performance. So even though the battery is small, the iPhone can still last a whole day with a screen-on time of 5 to 7 hours, similar to Android smartphones with batteries ranging from 5,000 to 6,000 milliamp hour.
When it comes to customization, Android is still the champion. This is because Android is an open-source OS, so you can modify many things, from changing icons, adding widgets, installing third-party launchers, installing themes, and you can even install custom ROMs. iPhones and iOS are closed source, but that doesn't mean iPhones can't be customized at all.
In terms of appearance, iOS 18 brings many customization features that are somewhat similar to Android. First, you can add widgets, ranging from clock widgets to weather widgets. Then, you can also change the position of app icons as you like. In previous versions of iOS, you couldn't do that. Not only that, you can even change the color or color tone of apps and the UI as you like. Currently, many people think that the iPhone is just a phone that sells its name and branding. So iPhone users are considered to be people who are only concerned with prestige. In fact, this is not true at all. It is true that sometimes there are people who buy iPhones purely for prestige. However, if you look deeper, it turns out that the iPhone is actually a really good phone. First, the iPhone's performance is not only fast, but also stable and reliable for various tasks, whether it's rendering or gaming. This is because the chipset used in the iPhone is a high-end chipset. Not only that, the iPhone also uses NVMe memory, similar to that found in computers. Currently, the iPhone camera is also one of the best, especially when it comes to video recording. If you are an Android user, you may be more familiar with fingerprint recognition. Fingerprint recognition allows you to unlock your phone simply by placing your finger on the sensor. On the other hand, iPhone users are more familiar with Face ID. In this case, you have to place your face in line with the Face ID sensor. While many Android users consider fingerprint recognition to be better than Face ID,
In fact, both are biometric sensors with their own advantages. Now, Face ID is very sophisticated and cannot be fooled by photos or other people's faces that look similar. Face ID also works well in the dark or when you are wearing glasses. This is because Face ID is capable of performing 3D face scans, and its sensor is a highly sophisticated special sensor.
All mobile phones must have a minimum level of domestic content, TKDN. Specifically, all mobile phones must be made with domestic raw materials or manufactured domestically. If they do not meet the minimum TKDN requirement, they cannot be sold domestically. Uniquely, Apple does not have a factory in Indonesia, and all iPhone components are manufactured overseas.
However, why can iPhones be sold officially in Indonesia? In fact, iPhones and Apple still comply with TKDN regulations. It's just that the government grants them special rights. In this case, Apple's TKDN takes the form of cash investments and the construction of research facilities in Indonesia. So iPhones still comply with TKDN, but Apple's compliance with TKDN is slightly different from other brands.
As a savvy Android user, you shouldn't blindly believe all the myths about the iPhone. Instead, you should dig deeper and find out the truth about all these myths. Use the internet, look for credible sources, and don't be easily swayed by hoaxes. The proof is that after digging deeper, all these myths are just baseless hoaxes and completely invalid.